Okay, this part, the procedure is how to bleed the air out of the system. As we discussed earlier, you've already bled or pushed out all of the sanitizer out of this tank, stuff that we're shipping the machine with, keep these lines full. So you would already have flushed out the lines in the tank here. You would have already opened the tank up, cleaned it with solvent. At that point you would have filled your tanks and pulled a vacuum on the tanks. So now we're going to get the machine up and running and we're going to bleed it. So to do that, we're going to turn the main air valve on. We're going to turn the pressure valve on both tanks on, pressurize the tanks. Of course, we want to make sure that the bottom outlet valve is open and top outlet valve is open. Tanks are now pressurized. Machine should be in the bleed mode. The red recharge light should be on. If it's not, just turn this on. It goes into recharge. If you don't want to listen to that air hissing back there, just shut that off. And that kills the air to the switch. So as you notice here, the cylinders are fully bottomed out. We want the piston right up against the end block so there's no gaps, because fluid is going to come from the tank through the rotary valve down to the side of the end block and right out the top of the end block. If there was a gap here or the pistons were up here, then this could be a great big dead spot and there could be a great big air bubble in there. So the rule of thumb is cylinders have to be bottomed out if you're going to bleed. And that's the way we are, so we're ready to bleed. And stick a cup underneath there. Open up the bleed valve. And it's hard to see because the liquid's so clear. But we're now bleeding. You would see, if there was air in here, you'd see pop and pop, pop. You might want to cover the cup so that you don't get anything on you. And then you want to shut the valve off for a few seconds and then turn it back on. So once you've done this several times and you see no more air bubbles coming out, which we just got a few there, and you're all set. It looks just fluid with no air pressure. And do the same thing. Go on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. That looks pretty good. Now that we've bled cylinders, there still could be air in these hoses or in the dispense gun. So we want to bleed now, we want to bleed those hoses and the dispense gun. To do that, we need to allow the machine to fully recharge so that we can dispense. So, we're going to turn our recharge kill switch back on again. We're going to turn the run bleed valve to run. And you will see the metering cylinders move backward. As they're moving, the cylinders are filling up with fluid. It comes back, hits the back limit switch. The rotary valves turn into the dispense mode, the drive cylinder gets pressurized, and the green light comes on telling you you're all set to dispense. Now we're going to take the gun. We also need to turn the main console switch on. And we want to make sure that the dispense mode switch is in manual mode. Just remember, now that this is turned on, now that the console's on, that means this button is active. So if you inadvertently hit it, you are going to squirt material out of here. So just make sure you keep your fingers away from the button. So to bleed properly, we want the hoses hot and going at a constant uphill. And we want the gun pointing slightly uphill, let's say at a 45-degree angle. And then shoot. Again, we want to go on and off several times. And then you want to point the gun down and do the same thing. Here we're also doing a visual check that both materials look good. Both materials are starting and stopping at the same time. There's your end of stroke warning. So now it just went into recharge. That's what that noise was that you heard. Now it's gone back in the dispense. I'll just take a little shot just to get it off the switch, and we're good.